I need to get on now to a gentleman who has been with us before. We are fortunate again to have him. He is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. He looked at the day and he said, Rennie, do I have to come out in this weather? I said, yes, because the audience will wait. He said, okay, I will. Brian Lewis, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Morning, thanks.
It is good to have you here. Of course, at the top of everybody's lips is the situation with Thema Williams, the situation with the Gymnastics Federation. I know that there are some things that you are not privy to go into, at liberty to go into, and I respect that. I do, however, as I did ask you to come in so we can talk on the heels of a meeting that your organization had yesterday that dealt with the area of scrutiny and transparency of organizations that fall under the umbrella of the TTOC. Under the umbrella, let's be very clear on that. When a decision has to be made with sending the Olympic team off, it falls under your umbrella. So the organizations in that context fall under your umbrella. Am I clear in that?
Yes, very clear, yes. In the context of the Olympic Charter, which is the codification of the rules, regulations, and principles under which the IOC and the Olympic movement is governed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Olympic Charter. Rule 27 says that the National Olympic Committee, in this case the TTOC, Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, they have a sole authority for the team, the preparation of the teams, everything going to the Olympic Games and multi-sport games under the auspices of the IOC, and that would be like the Pan Am Games, Central American and Caribbean Games, Youth Olympic Games, and of course the Olympic Games.
So you cannot, just to be clear on these codes now, Brian Lewis is my guest this morning, just to be very clear, you cannot say to an organization, I don't want that person, but you can say to an organization, we are not, to use the Minister of Finance recent comment, we will not treat with you because of the transparency or lack thereof. Is that correct?
So you have to give me 10 seconds to think through that and go to the mental checklist, because I have this strict legal gag order.
Understood.
Given that tomorrow the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will at a press conference announce its decision. So I have to.
Just now, this is a very.
That I have to. Yeah. So.
The Olympic Association.
The Olympic
while you run it through your mind, I'm buying you some time here. They're gonna have a meeting. Tomorrow,
a press conference.
So
we had two meetings.
I see. You had two meetings.
Friday and yesterday. One with the TTGF.
Make clear for me the Olympic press conference tomorrow. In what way, and without giving out the details, of course, but in what impact would they have on this? I mean, one way or the other. I understand the TTOC because you're the one saying, listen, we're going to utilize our spot or we're not going to utilize it. In other words, we're going to send somebody or not sending somebody. I understand that.
So that is what the announcement is going to be tomorrow.
Got you.
We go or we not go.
10 seconds up. Go ahead. The question still is on.
Okay, so that's what that is.
I got you.
Come back to your overall question. Once it's related to the Olympic Games, that's the TTOC's jurisdiction. Let's put it that. The TTOC respects the autonomy of the national governing bodies or the national sporting organization. Otherwise, so they can run their show.
Right.
They can do whatever they want because up to a particular point in time, outside of the games, they really report to their international federation.
I got you.
Right. So.
And the International Federation, just our listeners who have not been following, they have ruled, the International Gymnastics Federation, they have ruled that Ms. Dick is the representative. They have ruled they are standing by the local chapter is what
I'm not at liberty
is what is reported in that area. Brian Lewis is my guest this morning. He is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. And I know a lot of our listeners expect to hear about Thema Williams and Marissa Dick because that is what's going on here and the Trinidad and Tobago Gymnastics Federation. But I ask him in here because I know what he is representing in this discussion this morning is a bigger picture. And yes, there is a bigger picture because how we move forward. I am not really too locked up on what will happen with the decision whether in fact Ms. Williams or Ms. Dick go to the Olympics. As far as I'm concerned, that will be solved. I mean, I do take note of what the International Gymnastics Federation said when they say that's a local issue. Okay, I'm just going to leave that alone. I am instead looking at the bigger picture of many organizations like this that understand almost in that closed lack of transparent position. Some folks say in many instances it's nepotistic. Many folks say they operate without their books being checked. They say that there is not total transparency. And my question is, in your view, from your organization standpoint, what a wonderful shot across the bow is this situation, because I don't look at things as unfortunate. I look at them as an opportunity to make better.
Well, I think the reality is that the whole efforts to improve governance in sport has been an ongoing one. A lot of progress has been made in some sports. For example, the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, there was an entire governance reform that they implemented, and they had the recent elections. Like all reform process, what we don't recognize is that it's not black and white. Constitutions, etc., evolve as society changes. At one point in time, apartheid in South Africa was a law. And it was illegal to break the law. But society evolved. Women couldn't vote. There's an evolution that takes place in all societies, all constitutions, all organizations. And that is how I prefer to look at it. There is an evolution that has taken place in sport. We have sport before used to be run by committed volunteers who did everything. It was operated out of around kitchen tables, and I say that not in any negative way, because once you've been involved in sport long enough, you have come through those evolutions. You have operated out of the car trunk, to the point where now, in the modern environment, sport is big business, and there are all these contradictions that arise as a result. So you have sport is big business. It needs to be professionalized, but sport cannot exist without committed volunteers. You now have this intense scrutiny coming out of social media that has been transformative in terms of how sport organized. So it doesn't matter whether Rennie Bishop is the president of a small sport that probably only has 30 members who are all dipping in their pockets and doing everything to keep their sport together as a recreation. They share a common bond, which is they have a passion and a love and an enthusiasm for their sport, and they enjoy it. So because they may be the national governing body for the sport, and decisions have to be made, and decisions impact, and depending on what the decision may be, you have public scrutiny. But at the end of the day, outside of that public scrutiny, the public may not have a genuine interest in the sport, and it falls to the committed volunteers. And that's the kind of dichotomy that that sport is facing, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Of course, you have the big sports like football and cricket and track and field and some of them that may not be big in terms of participation, but in terms of international engagement, to which the country feels a sense of pride and ownership. And therefore, it becomes a public good. It becomes a public interest. That's where the challenge is. That's where for one, if you want to say, that's where the impetus of modernization is in front of the structure of some sports. And it is something that we meaning organizations like the Olympic Committee, the Ministry of Sport, and the sport company, we have to be mindful, because in many instances, you inadvertently or unintentionally could throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Well, I stopped at 180 degrees. Let me go full 360 on this. I'm going to go right to the top where we started on this, because I just want to be really clear on this. Every sporting body, you are there working with your people with the intention of getting to Mecca, Olympics. All right, which means they must go through your organization.
Yes.
And my question is, if you find an organization in practices that you don't find beyond reproach. Let me just get straight on this. Where you don't see nepotism, where you don't see questionable decisions and stuff like that happens in this case with the gymnastics. If you see an organization, not specifically them, but generally, an organization that is not operating with the full transparency one would expect, can the TTOC refuse to treat with them? Is that beyond your remit? I mean, can you?
No, well, let me put it this way. That's not how the Olympic Committee tends to operate. We are focused a lot on capacity building.
Understood, but if there's bacchanal going on in some place with a lot of questions, and they have to submit a representative to go to the Olympics, which must go through your body, you have to still go with whatever they put out as their representative.
No, that has never been the case. The TTOC is not a rubber stamp.
Enough said.
The TTOC is not a rubber stamp.
Coming out of your meeting, I'm going to wait to see what happens at that press conference tomorrow. Is going to be very useful. One of the things I do want to take this opportunity to find out about, many folks say whenever we get to the Olympics, is because we get out there simply because of the resolve, as you said a moment ago, by many people in kitchen tables and little organizations, not because
what I call unsung heroes.
Yes, because there is not a program, an agenda. There is not enough investment in a structured manner.
That's a fact. We don't take sport. We still don't take sports seriously.
The new Minister of Sport seems to understand the need to. The new Minister of Sport seems to echo those sentiments and want to do something about it. Are you hearing anything coming out that leave you encouraged?
Yeah, but the challenge is that I've told people, and I've been beating this drum for a while. Sport. There is no quick fix. Sport doesn't operate in a vacuum. Sport is not in isolation of the societal challenges and ills. And if whatever you see manifesting now was planted 15 years before,
right.
so you have this as I said, this conundrum, this dichotomy where you kind of mitigating, managing, dealing, kind of trying to improve what's happening now, but while at the same time planting the seeds for the next 15 to 20 years.